take a look around, and there's no mistaking what time of year it is. It's November 29th, and in traditional Christian churches, this is the beginning of a formal liturgical season that's known as Advent. And people are sometimes surprised to learn that many Unity centers, including Unity of Auburn, observe the season of Advent, although, as you might guess, we do it in a rather non-traditional way. But one of the traditions of Advent is this wreath over here with the 4 candles that represent some key ideas. And the ideas here are hope, peace, love, and joy, not necessarily in that order, but those are the key values that we honor during the season of Advent. So I'm going to go ahead and light one of the purple candles here this morning to get things going. I swear I am. You know, you test these things, and fortunately we have another lighter right up here. Always have a backup for your backup.
That's right. Whoa. All right.
Very good. So hope, peace, love, and joy. And I think we all might agree that maybe it's a good idea for the world to spend a little more time reflecting on a higher order of values than we seem to do most of the time. And if it takes the Christmas season, if it takes Advent to get us to focus on things like that, then let's do it. By all means, let's do it. And even though the liturgical calendar says that it's the first day of the Christmas season, most of us know that the Christmas season really starts the day before Halloween, right? Because they've taken the Halloween decorations down already, and of course the Christmas stuff is already going up. Thanksgiving seems to get lost in the shuffle. I just happened to come across this little gem on Facebook by my man Lewis Black. Anyone seen the movie Inside Out? He's the voice of anger in the movie Inside Out. But here's what he has to say. He says, Thanksgiving used to be Thanksgiving, and it was its own holiday, not Christmas Part 1. When I was a kid, you ate, you drank, and you passed out. And nobody woke you up and said, let's go shopping. I kind of remember that, not the passing out part, but people weren't all into the shopping, and so and actually I noticed, maybe some of you did too, that there was a bit of a backlash this year to all of the Black Friday hoopla. The stores that were getting all of the publicity were the ones that were closed on Thanksgiving Day, and some were even closed on Friday. So maybe we're witnessing a slight turn to a higher order of values, and I think that's a really good thing. That's a hopeful sign for the first Sunday of Advent. So it seems like everyone celebrates Christmas, and a lot of that celebration has nothing to do with Jesus and Christianity. There's the commercial side, which we've been talking about, Black Friday and all of that kind of thing. And you know what? If the only meaning that Christmas has for some people is the idea of buying presents and giving things to people and decorating the house and having holiday parties and things like that, what's the harm? What's the harm with that, and why should I let it bother me? Now, I've never understood the Christmas Puritans who moan and groan and carry on every year because it's too commercial, or people are all happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas and that kind of thing. In fact, there's really a kind of satisfying irony in the whole thing when you think about it. Nobody really knows when Jesus was born. However, we're pretty darn sure that it was not on December 25th. That was a date that the early church picked because it just happened to coincide with all sorts of pre-Christian celebrations of the solstice. And so the church figures, hey, this would be a really good way to start converting them to Christianity by converting their celebrations, by turning it into a celebration of the birth of Jesus. That's why they picked this time of year. And it worked great, didn't it? It almost worked too well. It worked so well that it's starting to backfire. So now, instead of a religious institution co-opting a secular celebration, the secular celebration may be starting to eclipse the religious aspects. That's what I meant by irony before. I'm a huge fan of freedom. And that includes the freedom to celebrate Christmas any way people want to celebrate it or not at all. We all have our preferences, and I like to think that there's enough room for all of us at Christmas. There's certainly enough room right here at Unity of Auburn. We're not here to establish some sort of orthodox version of Christmas. We're here to offer alternatives. That's what Unity has always done, offering alternatives, to find a way to take it deeper, to find greater meaning, if that's what people want. And that's what we've always done. We offer non-traditional alternatives to Orthodox Christian culture. And our Christmas traditions really do have a depth of meaning, and they can provide a great sense of stability, sort of a sense of having an anchor in an ever-changing world. And of course, the traditions, they change and they evolve as well, but the most important thing is that we do set aside this time of year to revisit our traditions, to celebrate certain values and certain ideas that we tend to neglect most of the year. And again, that's a good thing. So it's the first Sunday of Advent, a tradition that goes all the way back to the 4th century Catholic Church. Advent, it's a time of waiting. It's a time of anticipation. It all started as the story of how the Israelites were waiting for the Messiah, this Messiah figure who was promised to them by their ancient prophets and other Hebrew scriptures. And the thing is that nobody knew exactly what this Messiah was supposed to do. You get conflicting ideas. You read some of the scriptures and the works of the prophets, and this person sounds like a warrior king who was going to destroy the enemies of Israel and make them into a superpower once again. Other passages describe the Messiah as a priestly figure, a holy man who was going to bring peace and prosperity through righteousness and a return to following the law of Moses. The Jewish people, well, they're still waiting, aren't they? They're still waiting for the Messiah, but for traditional Christians, they believe that the Messiah came in the form of Jesus, and for them, it's an exclusive thing. You must believe that Jesus is the Savior or the Messiah promised to the Israelites if you want to avoid eternal hellfire. We beg to differ, and we offer an alternative. In Unity, when we say the word Christmas, we're really talking about the Christ. And I'm noticing my volume shrinking here. Is that good? Alrighty. We use the word Christmas, and you notice that the word Christ is in there. Christmas is about the Christ, which is the word that we use in Unity to describe the very best aspects of our humanity, our innate capacity to do good, and many other wonderful things as well. We will sometimes call it our divine potential. This potential that we have the opportunity to bring into full manifestation in the way that we saw Jesus do. A few years back, the Christmas issue of Unity magazine featured a short piece about the symbolic meaning of Christmas by Reverend Greg Barrett. And this is what he says about it. I think it captures the idea perfectly. He says, "Christmas is the yearning within each soul for an awakening into a new state of being, the birth of something new within the self. Through the birth embodiment of the Christ among humanity, Jesus stands in for each one of us when we were attempting to move into a new possibility during chaotic or difficult times." That's what the Christmas story really is all about, isn't it? It starts out as a story about a birth during chaotic and difficult times. Mary, the unwed teenage mother, she's living in a land under Roman occupation. When it's time to give birth, she's far away from home. She's homeless. They're living in a stable, a place reserved for animals. Is that chaotic or difficult enough for you? Mm-hmm. The symbolic message in this whole story is that major challenges, chaotic and difficult times, can bring out the best in us, the best that we can be. And the way that we reinterpret Advent gives us some important principles to help us to awaken to that new state of being. When I was growing up, I was raised Catholic, and the first Sunday in Advent always featured one song that was kind of highlighted. You probably have heard the song, O come, Emmanuel. And I recall it from my Catholic days because it's a melody that's based on Gregorian chant. And there's something about the melody itself that has the ability to convey this sense of longing without the need to really understand the words. And hey, when they would sing it in Latin, you really wouldn't know what they were saying anyway, but you got the idea. They'd sing it in Latin and you could get the meaning. It has this sense of longing and this plaintive request for divine intervention. Emmanuel means literally God with us. That's what it means. Looking for a God in human form to save the people from whatever it was that they deemed to be oppressing them. That's the Orthodox version. That's the Orthodox idea behind the Advent tradition. Humankind is waiting and pleading for someone to save them. O come, God, and be with us. That's what the song is saying. But this is really nothing unique or special to the Judeo-Christian tradition, because human beings from all corners of the earth have always been invoking the help of some kind of a superhuman entity in all sorts of different forms. Whether it's a Hindu avatar, Christian savior, gods, goddesses in human form, it's a universal story. The hero is called forth to vanquish the villain, to save the day, and of course everyone is happy until the next villain or unfortunate event happens to come along, and then the cycle repeats itself over and over again. Somehow, we never seem to learn the lesson of self-reliance. That's what it's all about, self-reliance. Nothing wrong with a good story. And listening to this particular story, I think, is a healthy exercise in self-awareness to help us to acknowledge that, yes, we do have this sense of longing within us that gives rise to the Advent season. Every so often, we feel beat up. We feel helpless. And it would be really, really nice if someone could come along and bail us out. And those are the times when we need to remember that all the mythical heroes, the saviors, and the avatars, they have one thing in common. One thing in common. All mythical heroes, saviors, and avatars are really archetypes representing qualities that have always existed within each one of us. Whatever it is that we think we're waiting for, it ain't out there. It ain't out there somewhere. That's the non-traditional Advent message in unity. Stop waiting. Stop looking out there for supernatural intervention, because collectively we are responsible for our own experience. It's a mistake to think that Advent is a season leading up to a one-time in history event called Christmas. Silent night. Holy night. A one-time thing. You know, so many of our Christmas hymns tend to keep us focused on something that supposedly happened a long, long time ago and will never happen again. Well, I say, keep the songs. Just reframe them. We can reframe them in our heads, right? Reframe them. Because in truth, any night can be a silent and holy night. Any night. Holiness. It's a state of consciousness. Holiness is in the eye of the beholder. Holiness is simply an attitude of respect and gratitude for life in the universe. Reminds me of that song that we do sometimes around here by Peter Meyer. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. It's a state of consciousness that we bring to the world. Same thing when it comes to the imagery of mother and child. Mother and child, that's timeless imagery. All children are born with something to offer, a role to play. Something to offer, a role to play, a purpose that's not pre-given, but is for us to discern, to nurture. We get to figure it out for ourselves and then celebrate that life. Allow it to unfold, to manifest its unique potential. Being born human doesn't mean that we're insignificant creatures in need of salvation. In our humanity, we find things like compassion, altruism, reason, creativity. Those are the things that can and will be our salvation without the need for supernatural intervention. And those are the ideas, again, that get lost in the shuffle during day-to-day life, which is why we need to highlight them periodically, at least once a year. At least once a year. Those are the ideas that tend to bring a sense of hope, tidings of comfort and joy, to quote another popular Christmas hymn. So Christmas isn't just for Christians anymore. It's a universal event that celebrates the very best that humankind can be right now, and it affirms our even greater evolutionary potential. During the darkest time of the year, we celebrate the return of the light. Not as something that's already happened and will never happen again, but as this ongoing process of waking up to the best parts of our human potential. Some call it the Christ. Others may use terms like enlightenment, higher self. The label's not all that important. What matters is that this is something that's been known to all of humankind. It transcends culture. It transcends ideology. It's worth celebrating in any and every form. So I say, let the celebration begin. Let's make sure that we invite everyone in, and we'll continue the season next Sunday. Hope to see you then.